Okay, so this is Taliyah versus Zed mid in gold 2, 3, and 14. Rough game. Okay, High Shark wanted to get Zed matchup being considered have much experience in these lanes. Often feels impossible to lane against a traditional, or as a traditional mage against Zed. Especially on Taliyah, because he doesn't really do anything against him. Feels like he can just get on top of you and kill me anytime after level 6. This might not be the best time to get a review in, because I made so many mistakes early on that compounded off each other, but don't really understand how to play against Zed as a mage that well, so I might as well pick a game where I'm making mistakes. That one's level 6 and just could not play the game anymore. Other issues I'm facing are what to build, because I feel like second item Zhonya's really hurts your damage a lot, but don't really have a choice. Also considered crown first item, but then I think if I get crown and Zhonya's, you just do no damage at all. Yep, definitely true. So the trick against assassins, as you've kind of alluded to here, is you can't fall behind. If once you fall behind against an assassin, it becomes very difficult. The assassins are kind of balanced around not getting fed in a way, you know? Like the thing is a Z that's like 1-0 or 2-0 has counterplay. A Z that's 5-0, 10-0, it's not balanced anymore, right? And there's many champs that are like that, where once they get fed, you're just fucked. And like the skill comes from preventing them from getting fed in the first place. Now, mages at the moment actually have a lot of tools in order to deal with assassins. So I'm going to run you through all of them. Actually, there's like a lot of ways you can survive this. So let me go with the old notepads. This is Taliyah versus Ed coding. Like, I'd actually say that mages versus assassins are pretty much fine at the moment compared to normal. So the first thing, and something that you definitely have here, is that Spellbook is a good choice. So Spellbook is great. Let's actually just go like rune/itemization. So we start off with yep, Spellbook. Now, if you need extra safety, you can go Spellbook plus Resolve for extra safety. Now, I don't think you actually need Resolve. If you do go Resolve, you take like Second Wind/Bone Plating, depending on which assassin it is. Versus Zed, I would probably go Bone Plating as a ranged champion. It kind of depends how confident you are in dodging the Q, but I'd probably go Bone Plating. And then just take Overgrowth, pretty much. So you can take that for extra safety. I also think versus assassins, I would probably swap minion DMAT to biscuits because okay, this is like a like you said, it's kind of a compounding thing. So I think if you're taking Spellbook into an assassin, it's much better to take Spellbook with exhaust and swap to TP at 6 rather and like then TP back rather than to go Spellbook TP and swap to exhaust at 6. And the reason for that is that if if you're against Zed, well, like whenever you take Spellbook, and I like talked about this in my Spellbook video, the sum you take with Spellbook is the one you want access to the most. So against Zed, like TP is not that important. Exhaust is more important, right? So you want to take Exhaust and swap to TP, because that's going to mean like basically every fight you have Exhaust up, and then you might have an extra sum. So here, definitely should be Spellbook with Exhaust, swap to TP to get back to lane at 6, or like if you find out you don't need TP at 6, maybe you just swap to like barrier or something at 6 as well, right? So I think taking the TP here is pretty greedy as a start. But I think, and yeah, like I think if you like biscuits are better with no TP, because like if you're not taking TP, then having like a bit of extra mana does make it a little easier. So yeah, I guess my like recommended setup is like Spellbook, probably no resolve. Honestly, I think Spellbook, Sorcery, plus Exhaust. And that will be fine. Now, the next thing is verse any AD assassin. So verse any AD assassin at the moment. You want to rush Catalyst. And then into Roa. So the thing is, Crown has pretty much been replaced by Rod of Ages as an item. Like, Crown is, I mean, you said it yourself, right? It just doesn't really do any damage. Yeah, it just sucks to be honest. Like Rod of Ages is a much better item, and I also think Catalyst is a much better component than a Kindle Gem. And also Catalyst is a much better component than Seeker's Arm Guard. So against any AE assassin, you want to rush Catalyst into Row. Now against AP assassins, you have a choice. It's either like Merc Treads, or just like Lost Chapter, or Catalyst. Because I think AP assassins in general aren't quite as strong early. Like, let me actually get up the list and I can kind of like talk you through them. So like, what do we got here? Like Kassadin, you don't need anything special versus, just go your normal build. Zed, I'd go Catalyst. Vex, you can just build like normal. Katarina's pretty weak. I would honestly just build like normal as well. Aurelia, your HP doesn't matter, so I'd build like normal. Talon, I'd go Catalyst. These I'd all build like normal. Syndra, I think you should just go Mercs. I don't think you need Catalyst. Akali, I would say it depends how confident you are. I personally would probably just build Leandries versus Akali and rely on my Seraph shield second. If you were really scared, you could go Rod of Ages in this matchup, but in my mind, if you play well, you don't actually need it. Echo, you don't need it. Fizz, I would definitely go with Catalyst. This champ is really, really hard to play against. Kiana, it's up to you. I think you might be fine with just Exhaust. If you want to be safe, go Catalyst. But I think this would be up to you. If you feel confident in the matchup, don't go Catalyst. Otherwise, you might find that you need it. Also, like Kiana, I feel like at the moment just kind of sucks, so I don't see her that much. And I guess like on that note, you can probably go Catalyst, and like as long as she doesn't kill you, you're probably fine. Other AP assassins like Annie, you should go Mercs, don't need Catalyst. Down here like LeBlanc, go Mercs, don't need Catalyst. So yeah, I would say for the most part, it's like Catalyst is more a thing versus AD assassins, and Merc Rush is more a thing against AP assassins, for the most part. I guess like Fizz is an exception, because Fizz doesn't actually have anything that Merc Treads really does for you. Like the tenacity doesn't really help, whereas like against Syndra, LeBlanc, Zoe, like it's good against all those sort of champs. So hopefully that sort of makes sense, but I think we can definitely improve the kind of setup before the game starts, because in my mind, like here, if you're not rushing Roa and you don't have exhaust, it's scary. It's pretty scary. Like you do have the spell book, but you're only gonna get one exhaust, right? And then you won't get your second summon until 11 minutes. So that's basically like you have one exhaust for the entire early game, which is not very much. Okay, now what was the first comment here? I missed. Should have warded aside. Okay, yeah, we'll see it, I guess. Okay, let me write early game here. So it looks like, did they start bot? Let me go back. Oh, I clicked a comment. Did I mean to do that? I wish there was a way to minimize the comments. Did they start bot? Okay, yeah, so they started bot, so yeah, you definitely want to ward topside early. I didn't see what jungler they were, but chances are, like, it's an AP jungler. If they have a Z. Okay, so pushing in. Like, yeah, definitely hugging bot side if their jungler started. Oh, it's a Nocturne. Okay, yeah. So definitely should be hugging top side here. I would also probably recommend warding. I can't remember if we talked about this last time. I actually just don't remember. But normally it's better if you ward before the wave crashes. That way you can actually use the wave crash to harass your opponent. Because... Or maybe you were thinking you could skip it. Yeah, I guess you were thinking you could skip it, right? That's probably what you're thinking here. I mean, as long as you hug to this area, he like can't actually be here yet. He can be here soon. But not yet. Yeah, okay. So it's like a combination of bad hugging and bad warding, I would say. So like you definitely should be, I mean, you should know pretty much the Nocturne can't be topside yet unless he's doing like red to mid from topside. So it doesn't make sense that you're like hugging this side of the wave. Definitely need to be hugging topside. So I think same thing as last time. Like try find where jungle starts. Level 1. Level 1. Hug opposite side. I think I talked about this in the last one with you, but if I didn't, watch the jungle tracking and warding video, because that's probably going to have the most important information about that. So yeah, you definitely shouldn't have to flash here, but honestly, it's not too bad. Like the way... Okay, yeah, no. This ward is real bad though. Like never ward these side bushes. They don't tell you anything. So always, if you don't have time or you're like too scared to walk in, you need to ward like just take half a second and ward like there. Just ward a bit further out, because like ward in here, it actually tells you nothing. It gives you just no actually useful vision. Like if Nocturne comes around, you still die. By the time Nocturne shows on that, you might still die anyway. So yeah. I mean, like, the thing is, you're kind of minimizing to Z, which is good, but at the same time, like, pre-6 Z is kind of like the one window where, like, okay, maybe not pre-6, like, level 1 and 2 Z, you can bully quite a lot. And then after that, you're kind of just, like, trying to make sure you hit Catalyst on your first base. And definitely, like, the only way that Zed trades is with WEQ, right? Like, that's his whole, like, trading pattern. So pretty much as soon as you see W, you need to be thinking like, how can you dodge both Qs? Or like at least one Q. Because if he can't proc electrocute, then he's just like a lot weaker. But here it's like, you've had a really, I mean, it's like you said, you had a real bad start. Like you've lost Flash. I think the wave controls, maybe you pushed the first two waves a bit too fast. And like now you've taken this bad trade, so definitely not looking too good. I think you still want to build tier though. Like I think we're going like tier catalyst. And the thing is, like if you're rushing catalyst and like you can go catalyst tier and then finish your rower. You know, like you don't actually have to buy tier straight away. You can complete catalyst first. Okay. So here I think you should keep pushing. If Zed is recalled here, then you should recall as well. But if Zed shows bot, you should just shove another wave. As long as you like hug towards vision, you should be safe. Like, yeah, Nocturne shows up on a ward there, but I think as long as you warded bot side and hugged the bot side, you would be completely fine to shove this wave. So it's kind of weird. Yeah, so you buy the tier, and that's kind of greedy in my mind. Okay, it's maybe fine if you can get a ruby crystal by level 6. Actually, you know, it's probably fine because you're going to have exhaust, but you still, okay, you definitely, before Zed has like ult and ignite, you probably want to be thinking about getting a ruby crystal. Good freeze though. Denies him a lot of creeps. I probably would have kept this. Did you say something about, I think you said something about mismanaging your wave. Try to set up your wave. You could have let it push back to around 520/530. Okay, we'll get to that. I think right now you should just focus on last hitting the creeps. Like, I don't think you really need to push this back out. Using one Q to kind of thin it, I think that's fine. Like, yeah, I mean, I think so far this is fine. I think doing another Q, though, like, now it's starting to get a bit sketchy. And, like, this, I'd say, is, like, kind of bad. I think you could have held it a little longer until he came back to lane. But, I mean, it's still fine. Like, you're going to stop him from roaming. So, you should be fine here. Like, you should hit exhaust before he can hit 6. You just have to hold on for a minute, which I think you'll be fine. This wave will reset. Honestly, I would maybe consider basing here. No, actually, I think you can do one more. The thing is, okay, if you wanted to, you could base right now and just buy Ruby Crystal, but it feels like pretty mediocre. I think you probably want to demat this cannon and just like one-shot this wave. Like, let's see. He used a cooldown on you somewhere, right? Was it right here? Okay, no, it was just a Q. It's gonna be back up. I mean, you should hit 6 before him. I think if you just demat that cannon and one-shot this wave, you get a reset. The worst thing you can do is like push it, but not push it fast enough. Because if you don't push it fast enough, then it freezes outside his tower. And if you, I mean, honestly, that's fine. Like, he just used cooldowns, so now you can get this wave under. I really think you look to just demat the cat. Okay, yeah. You've taken like too long to do this though. Like, you need to abuse this window where he doesn't have cooldowns. Because his W is 20-second cooldown. Okay, and then like right here, you have exhaust in 2 seconds. And now you're dead, right? Yeah, okay. So it's like, it's a combination of a lot of things here. First, it's like, the window, you need to be thinking, okay, let's actually just write up some stuff because I haven't really been writing it. But, okay, so we talked about the hugging and stuff like that. And then, like, our goal in the matchup, or like the timings and stuff we need to think about are, actually, I'll just write like timings. So the things and timings are spikes in the matchup are his level 6, your 6-minute exhaust, and his like first base Dirk, and your catalyst. That's like what you're thinking about. So like right now he has Dirk and you don't have the catalyst, so you're at a pretty big deficit. You also don't have your exhaust, and he's just hit level 6. There's a lot of spikes going there, so that means you really need to abuse his cooldowns slash, what's the opposite of spikes, like power troughs, I guess. CD slash power troughs. So like here, like there was like a window where he was weak, and you were strong, where like, you know, you were gonna hit level 6 before him, he didn't have 6 yet, like you could have actually pushed in the wave and reset it. But the problem is, like, he used his 20-second W cooldown and you didn't punish it at all. Like, let's just go back. So like, where was it? This W here. Okay, now he can't kill you at level 6 anymore. If you just demat this cannon and just like WE the rest of this wave, that wave goes under and then it bounces back out. But instead what happens is it doesn't quite go under, so it doesn't bounce back to the middle. And here, you have exhaust in 2 seconds. You just need to wait. Like with Spellbook, right? You get your first sum at 6 mes, and your next sum is at like, it's like 10:30 or 11 or something. It's like pretty late, right? So those are the timings you need to be thinking about. So here, if you didn't have Spellbook, you probably just base, sell the DMAT, and go like Ruby Crystal Darksteel or Ruby Crystal Mana Crystal. Because you have exhaust in 2 seconds, you just swap flash to exhaust, and then you're good. Like, honestly, while you could have fixed this with wave control if you played the previous wave better, you're also just not really making use of Spellbook. Like, you hit level 6 and you hit 6 minutes and you don't have exhaust, and that's why you die. And yeah, like, giving every kill to Zed obviously is really, really bad. It's gonna be tough now. Like, yeah, and swapping to Ignite at 6, that doesn't make sense. Like, the whole point of taking Spellbook versus Assassins is to slow them down, right? Like, you can take Ignite if you're laning against, like, a Silas or something, but you're not going to have Spellbook if you're against a Silas. And also, you normally want to swap the sum that's going to be on CD, right? So, like, here, you should TP back. Once the TP is down, you swap TP to Exhaust or TP to Ignite. But instead, you're swapping the sum that you actually have ready. Like, your flash is up in 30 seconds, and you swap that one to Ignite. That doesn't make sense. Like, because like here, rather than having 2 sums, you just have 1 sum. So a lot of this is like Spellbook specific, but yeah, so like try swap Exhaust at 6, and then try swap the TP / just like spell that's on CD to the new one, to the new spell. Hopefully that makes sense. I know Spellbook is like not the most straightforward rune in the world. There's definitely like even challenger players that don't really like get what it's used for. But yeah, like if you like look at your items right now, like this is the greediest thing ever. You're into Zed, right? You've gone for Ignite instead of Exhaust, and you've built Tier and Amp Tome instead of any form of resistance, like no armor or health. So like yeah, it's hard to do this even when Zed is 0-0, let alone if he gets fed, you know? It's gonna be real hard. I like this roam. So you're roaming to a lane with CC, you've got your jungler in the river. So this looks like a pretty well thought out roam, honestly. Don't have any problem with this. Yeah, nice, solid. So you push this in. Base, yeah, chapter is definitely not the player. I don't really need to keep talking about it, but obviously this is a catalyst angle. Yeah, and so you won't have exhaust here for a pretty long time, so you need to be pretty much, I would just be like making sure you hold your E, I'd say. Like hold your E and W and just like make sure not to die, pretty much. When you do fall behind against roaming champions, if you do have a ward, it's really good to use it on the lane. I think you actually used a ward down here, which kind of sucks. Yeah, I probably would have done that too. But it is kind of unfortunate that you don't have ward now, because like you really want to ward the lane against a roaming champion. And now like, yeah, now it's really tough. Probably not allowed to follow roams, is what you said. Honestly think it has less to do with following roams and more to do with like entering the river. Because like, okay, let's say if you walk into this river when Diana is pathing to topside, like there's no help, you know? If you walk into Nocturne and it's just a 1v1, like you're forced to flash. I don't even think this has like that much to do with Zed. Like obviously like if you end up 1v1 versus Zed, that's bad. But I think the problem is here. It's like you shouldn't enter river on weak side at all. So like here, Dinah is pathing to top side, which is gonna make bot side your weak side. And also I think Aatrox is like turbo fed. Like didn't Aatrox was on like 3 kills or something? What was he on? Yeah, so Aatrox is like 3-0 or something here. So your Aatrox just killed his lane, and Dinah's pathing top side, which makes top side the strong side. So walking in here into your weak side, where it's like no jungler on this side, no vision on this side, and your bot lane is like, yeah, fighting. It's just like real. It's really not worth it. Yeah, you just like ping the roam, and if you're gonna enter a river, it needs to be on top side because at least then you'll have Diana near you. But I think entering the river is just, yeah, it's really, really risky. You probably can only enter river with Diana next to you. And I think you're just dead again, right? Yeah, to be honest, there's not really much counterplay. Like, your only option here is to just sit under your tower and AFK. And like, admittedly, while that is the like probably the best play here, it's not gonna win you games. You know, it's like, okay, if you just want to play, I mean, yeah, no, you should play safe under tower here because if you fall this far behind, like your team can still carry you if you don't end. But at the same time, if you do this, you're still not going to maintain a good win rate because solo queue is about, you know, can you be the difference maker? And here it's like, sure, maybe you win this game by not ending, but there's going to be plenty of other times where you have to carry this game, and if you sit on your tower, it's going to be bad. So the solution really is just like what we said before in the like runes with the and the sums and the items. If you have like catalyst exhaust here, there's no chance he's going to be able to kill you. So I assume you're just going like Leandries or something. And yeah, the reason this like kill happens top as well is because you can't contest mid waves because like you're dead, right? So not much you can do about that. You know, once you're actually in this situation. I probably wouldn't ward these, so it's a good ward, but I think you're so far behind that you can't ward, like you don't know what Zed's going to be doing. So I think you need to ward your lane rather than ward there. Like I think if you can get priority over Zed, then that's a really good ward because it'll keep you safe from Nocturne and it tells your team a lot. But yeah. Okay, you're dead here. I think, by the way, like, okay, what was the comment you said? It's like clearing the wall when the wave is under your tower is just tilt and greed. I think it's just like greedy to be here to begin with. Like, remember, just like when you push mid, that gives you one turn to do one thing, and the one thing you did here was place a ward. So you could clear this blue ward and go back to mid. As soon as you commit to this scuttle crab, you give up priority on this next wave. Like, okay, even if you don't clear this ward, you either have to walk the really safe way, like all the way around, or you have to path through the jungle, and if Zed meets you there, you're just dead again, right? Or you like stopwatch and then Nocturne ults you afterwards. So just going for the crab is not allowed. This is like, it's like poor tempo usage. So remember that one wave means one thing. Normally you can't say push the wave, place a ward, and do a camp. Or like, you know, push the wave, roam, and base. Normally it's like, okay, you push the wave, then you base, or you push the wave and then you roam, or you push the wave, then you ward, because you always want to make sure to be back on the next mid wave. You don't want to be just like giving up the mid waves for free. So I think honestly, like you're already dead. I'm pretty sure. Even if you don't go for the ward, man, like if you walk that way and ZW's over the wall, like you're just forced to stopwatch, and you might still die. And even if you don't, burning stopwatch means you just died on the next window, right? So yeah. Feels pretty bad. I just don't think you can even be there to begin with. Okay, now you have the exhaust, which is good. And you've swapped the spell that's on CD, so I don't mind that. Like, this is good, but we're already 3 deaths in. Like, the game is already looking real bad. So I don't mind this kind of cheese roam too much, because I feel like we're so far behind that we don't really have a lot of options. Stopwatch comes out. I do think this is probably a bit too early, though. Like, I think I'm down for doing a cheese roam bot. But I think you should wait for your jungler to be here. Like, your jungler is recalling right now, so I'd probably push one wave mid, and then go do a roam. Even if it's, like, not high percentage, it could probably work. But yeah, this doesn't really make sense. It's like the play is being made really fast when Diana's still in base. Like, maybe if you do this, you just play it slow. Like, maybe you just, like, walk down, but you don't ult in. And you just, like, poke at them for a while. Just, like, try and buy time to Diana here. I don't think you need to make it as fast as you do. And then, yeah, you're just, like, dead again. And honestly, like, to be straight up with you, there's not a whole lot you can do now, right? Like, you're so far behind against 2 champs that have insane kill threat onto you. Like, the only thing you can do now is try not to feed. Which is, like... That sucks, right? It really, really sucks. I think, given that you've just decided to go Ludens, you probably should go Zhonya's second, but I honestly think you can just be fine with like Rod of Ages tier, and that doesn't hurt your damage too much. Um, yeah, because I think you're right. Like Crown Zhonya's feels pretty shit. You could maybe build Zhonya's late game, but I honestly think like Roa Seraphs with stopwatch should be enough because you shouldn't really have to stopwatch early. You should only have to use it in a team fight because like I think early with Catalyst and Exhaust, like you should be fine really. Okay, we got the Ludens. We have Flash. Okay, now this is like actually kind of good hugging, so yeah, to what you said in your comment here. Far enough behind, anything I do at this point is wrong slash punishable. Yeah, kind of true. I think, yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to respect this. Like, you probably just need to just AFK. I guess like this ward isn't that great. Like the ward probably should be a bit further out, like over this wall. And I guess you probably can't contest waves at all. But at the same time, I don't know. If you end up in this situation, I guess you just stay on the tower because you're versus 6-0 Z and they have a Nocturne. But you just can't afford to fall this far behind. Because, like, sure, I don't know how many games of these you would win playing like this. I'm guessing it's like 20%. It's like, can your team actually carry this game? If you stop feeding, probably, yeah. But most of the time, it's like, if you're playing bad, your team's just going to lose too. And then you're just going to lose as well. So I don't want to like harp on too much about stuff like that because I really feel like the damage is just already done. And yeah, again, to say for like the 10th time, obviously we should know how to play from behind, but playing from this far behind is really different. It's like the guy is 6-0, you know? Okay, we get some nice kills. We get a dragon, so those are pretty good pickups. And you're building Zhonya's next, so we're going to be useful eventually here. Yeah, just go mid-wave. I would be a little careful contesting this wave, because I think this one's even scarier than the last time, because you don't have flash. You're just dead, right? Okay, so I think the last one was pretty hard to respect, honestly, because the last one you were like, you were hugging to the complete opposite side, you had flash, and you were full HP. But this one is like, okay, you have no flash, and you're hugging the middle of the lane instead. Like, I think this one is much more avoidable than the last one. I guess the stuff I would be thinking about is like, you know, I just like, I don't know, can I contest this mid wave? And also, if I do push this mid wave, wait, what? This mid wave, like what does it mean? Because here, I don't think you can contest because you don't have any sums, and you're also hugging just like the middle of the lane. But also, if you kill this wave, like what can you use a priority for? The answer is nothing. Like, I don't think you can do anything off it anyway. So you're just, like, clearing it further out for, like, the sake of it, or because you're, like, addicted to priority. And to be honest, you're definitely not the only person that does that. Like, I've seen many, many people do that, where they just, like, push, they get priority for the sake of getting priority, even though there's, like, nothing that can be done with it. Because, like, obviously, getting priority itself is never really going to be bad. It's just, like, oftentimes there's a cost, right, of, like, you give them free CS, or, like, you overextend. Um, but a lot of the time, priority doesn't actually turn into anything. And then you're just like making the game more difficult for yourself and not getting anything out of it. So, yeah. But we're building the Zhonya's. Finally got tier 1 boots. Oh, I didn't even realize you got tier 1 boots so late. That is like a little bit of a problem, I would say. I didn't even realize, but if you're not, honestly, I would maybe consider going magical boots if you're rushing Catalyst, because I think you won't need the stopwatch, because at the same time, having no boost until 17 minutes does feel pretty bad, especially because Zed is a skill shot champion. Like, I'm not even sure how I'd fit it in the build. What would you go? Like, Catalyst? Oh, honestly, I think I'd probably just take boots. So I'm thinking, you're probably going to go like tier, Catalyst, boots, potentially Dark Seal as well. Like, you're going to be so late on the Roa if you go for all those. So, like, you might end up having to skip Dark Seal, or you might end up just like having to go magic boost instead. At least, I don't know. It's not horrible if you delay it forever because honestly, the rower components are still pretty good. But at the same time, if you can get a stacking earlier, it feels better, right? Okay, so I actually like what you did here. this is like you're playing pretty aggressive, but you got a lot of people on your side, and you also realize like this has to be on you. So that was actually really good, like presence of mind for you to do that. So I'm a pretty big fan of that play. Okay, just back off. It's very, very difficult to side lane, which obviously feels pretty bad as a mage in the mid game. Like, just don't have a lot of options. Okay, nice stun. Do we have more Q? We do. The guy doesn't realize it's a blast cone or something. Okay, I honestly don't even hate this. Like, even if you die, it's like sort of whatever. You got all your cooldowns off. Yeah, good movement as well. That guy really up 3,000 gold on you. That's disgusting. Ooh, I'm not sure about this. Yeah, okay. So that just looked bad to me because it didn't look like you have any follow-up. Like, if you're more fed, 100%, you just kill the Zed here. But the problem is, it's like you go in and look at your team. It's like they're all walking out. There's no follow-up for this. So it just ends up being bad. But I think I kind of admire the attempt, and I like how you played the start of it. But I think this is like, the thing to remember, right, is that, okay, I'll put this under mid-game, but it's just a thing to remember. Like, if you're the one that's behind, like, your whole thing is to, like, minimize your losses, you know, like, stop the bleeding, and, like, play towards your team. You don't need to go for hero plays. You don't need to worry about, like, doing all the damage. You're just trying to make it as easy as possible for you to get carried. And, you know, I always see things of people on Reddit saying, like, it's really important to learn how to get carried. And honestly, it's like, it's good to know how to get carried because there will be games where you play bad and you'll be able to win by just like not feeding, but it's way more important that you don't fall behind in the first place. At least that's my opinion. So if you want to work on this, like that's great, but work on all this shit first. But anyway, back to the game. So I kind of admire it, but it didn't work out that well. I like the CDR boots. It's good for the flash cooldown. Dragon's in 20, so you're just going to come group for it. Okay, Zed altered. Yeah, I don't really like this either. Like, remember, as I was just saying, like your goal is not to make plays. Your goal is like peel people, wait for Diana, because like Diana's the fed dude. But like the problem is, you're making this like a super fast engage. Even though like Diana and Morg aren't here, I'm pretty sure Diana's the fed one. Yeah, Diana's 6 and 2. So like, if you just wait for Diana and 3v3 with her, she can probably carry you. But it's like you just like run in as if you're 10-0, which you're not. Yeah, when you get Zhonya's, this feel good. Yeah, like I mean Diana's actually like kind of 1v9ing. We need all the mountains. Kind of true. They are full AD. Did you win this game by the way? Oh shit. I think you're dead, right? Sorry, that sucks. Okay, so why did this happen? I would say this is again like kind of not like this is like tracking your team a bit. So like if you just like look at your teammates right now, Aatrox is not showing on bot wave, but he's about to, right? Diana's clearing Raptors, Caitlyn's clearing mid, and Morgana's is like dead. And you don't see a single member of their team. No one's showing top, mid, or bot. So like walking into the enemy jungle, not knowing where anyone is really, really greedy. And then like, yeah, you just die. So I think that death as well is really, really avoidable. Admittedly, you're probably pretty tilted, like I would be too. But it is avoidable at the end of the day. Ooh, Rush Baron? Can you do this? What ults did they use? I mean, yeah, the jungler looks low. I don't think you guys are in position in time, honestly. But I can admire the attempt. And I, honestly, like, looking for a fight here is not too bad. Wow, you just like, took a million damage. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think the problem is you guys don't have enough DPS. Or actually, no, you have the DPS. It's just like, again, you guys are kind of out of position, right? Like, by the time, if you guys are on it right now, it'll be good. But by the time you kill it, they can already be mid. So I think it's just, I don't know. It's a good call if you're here like 10 seconds earlier, but you're a bit too slow to it. And you don't have a ton of DPS because you're pretty weak and you don't have Leandries. And then, yeah. Also, another thing to keep in mind is they have a very good poke comp. Like starting Baron versus poke comps is really scary. And here they have what, like Jace, Varus. What's their support? Ashe. Like, it's so scary to start with that. Same if you verse shit like Zoe or Ezreal. It's way harder to start Barons versus Pokecoms because they will just like they can just like not even commit to the fight. They can just keep poking you off of it. Okay, so you have Zhonya's here. I think you should be. Ooh, did you need a flash? I mean, you have barrier. Hmm. I think you're okay here, given that he used his cooldowns, right? Like, he used both Qs. Even if he ults you, I think you're all good. So that was kind of like, I think that was, you were kind of scared, but also, I mean, I can understand it. This guy has killed you like 50 times, so, you know, sort of does make sense. Doing a bit of rage splitting, I think it's good. Get Zonya, get item. Okay, maybe we can, like, fight with Diana and actually win a fight for once. Could be it. So I feel like your team's, like, not actually horribly behind. It's just, like, you're horribly behind. Yeah, like, I don't mind that. Like, if you're playing with your team, it's definitely winnable. So this is, like, I don't know. It's the same thing. It comes back to that, like, tracking your team and tracking enemies. So when you go up to contest this wave, like when you go up to push it, right? You don't see anyone on the map. There can be 5 people here and you don't know about it. And the only one close to you is Aatrox. So at best, it's a 2v5. Meanwhile, like your entire rest of your team is like showing mid. So like they can just go on you here and only Aatrox can help you. I mean, it actually turns out okay. But the thing is, there can be more people than Nocturne here. And you don't know that. Right? Like, they just pushed out a top jungle. Like, Varus can be in top river. Given that Zed's not showing bot, Zed could be here. The reality is we just don't know. So we're just like risking it. And also, by the way, this is why you need to take exhaust as your primary sum this game, like flash exhaust. Because you're gonna run out of defensive sums. Like you obviously you haven't run out here, but exhaust is much better than say heal or barrier or cleanse against Zed. So like anytime you have to swap to something like Ignite, now remember again, you could swap to exhaust here, but anytime you are forced to swap to something that's not exhaust, you should like feel a little bad about that, essentially. Okay, they actually got the Zed kill. Playing with Caitlyn. Taking Krugs. Yeah, nice. It's good shadowing. Baron soon. I think you're dead, but maybe your team can get Baron for it. Go back. I guess right now you should back off. Yeah, okay. So like right here, this is great, but now you need to be being a bit more careful because all your team is about to show topside and Caitlyn wants to base. The problem is you're actually walking up to this wave while Caitlyn is basing. That doesn't really make sense. And then you kind of force Caitlyn to cancel her base to try and save you, but now it's like really fucked. So I honestly think this is like, you know, some people look at this and be like, okay, this guy just like doesn't know how to play from behind. But honestly, I think you might make similar mistakes when you're ahead. It feels like you don't really think about like what your team or like what your enemies are doing in the mid game. It feels like you kind of play like you're playing PvE almost, you know? It's like there's 9 other people in this game and a lot of them won't make the right decisions, so you need to always be like adapting to what they're doing, especially in the mid game. You really that's like the tough part about solo queue is like adapting to what they're up to. What are you building now? Are you building tier now? That's fine. What happened here? Yeah, so like this is same thing, but like Diana's fault this time, right? Like Diana is contesting a wave when everyone is in base, and that's why she's getting like engaged on. So this has nothing to do with you. This is not your fault. It's just an example of them making the exact same mistake as you. Now I do think you go in a bit deep here, like without vision. You know, like you don't actually see anyone, obviously, because you're Nocturne altered. So you probably want to jump off a bit early and just kind of like figure out what the fuck's happening. And then it's kind of unfortunate that you get Ashe altered, but yeah, okay. I mean, Aatrox managed to come in and just clean it up, so that's not bad. Are you actually winning this game, man? Like, you're a Giga Chat if you won this game. You're a high impact mid. You guys have a lot of fucking armor. Like, I can definitely believe it. Okay. Yeah, I actually like hitting bot. Like, you're kind of... You see people mid, so you should be safe bot. And if anyone comes to you, like, it also doesn't really matter if you die. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters pretty much at all at this point. And you got a tower for it, so I actually don't mind that. The 14th death of the game was actually a fine death. Again, you have flash exhaust, so you should be unkillable. Like, I think, yeah, you're high impact here. Yeah, I like the wall as well. Do I like the engage? I think this is probably fine if you thought about the fact that Nocturne is dead and you have everything up. If you would do this, even with like all your sums down and Zonya down and Nocturne still alive, then that's really bad. But like right here, Zed is showing bot, so you know that he can't be here, and you have all the sums up. Like no one can really hurt you. But again, if you just did this without thinking, then I think it's really bad. Because like the only reason you're allowed to do this is because Zed is bot, because Nocturne is dead, and because you have like all your sums and shit up. So it really needs to be something you kind of think about consciously. Otherwise, it's just like cooked. Okay, so the game is over. So about what we want to work on here. So the good news is it's very, very fixable. So I think the biggest stuff here is probably the runes, items, and sums. Mainly like Catalyst Rush, just like how Spellbook works. You know, make sure you go Flash Exhaust rather than Flash TP. And yeah, just like a little bit of like optimization here about like what items and stuff you build. I think, yeah, the early hugging, I think losing your flash like that was pretty bad. I also think, yeah, timings and spikes in the matchup. I think that is very important. Like you really need to be thinking about, you know, the Dirk, the Catalyst, when he hits level 6, your exhaust at 6 minutes. You know, there's a lot of times that are very like predictable in this matchup. I also think cooldowns, like there was that time where Zed used his, remember like ZW 20-second cooldown. So that should definitely be punishable, either by, sometimes, like, you can't harass them. Sometimes all you can do is, like, shove in the wave, right? A lot of time, like, that's good. I also think, there was, like, that, I guess, like, playing around your team more in general. Like, remember early game, you, like, walked into weak side, even though Diana was pathing top side. I think, like, throughout the game, like, you didn't really track, like, your team / enemies well, or if you did, like you didn't adapt to what they were doing. Like it feels a lot of the time you are just doing stuff on your own, and that probably works when you're more fed because people will be playing towards you. But when you're the one that's behind, like you're not strong enough to make those plays by yourself. Um and yeah, I think maybe just like, yeah, I don't know. I honestly feel like most of this game kind of did happen in that first 10 minutes, so the rest of it was kind of not that important. But a lot of this is like really easy against other assassins as well. Like, you know, I think knowing like Catalyst Rush is really good versus AD, Merc's Rush is really good versus AP, and obviously Rod of Ages is good in general versus like kind of assassin S comps. And like how to use spellbook, I think is pretty important. Then like the early hugging. Also think like be mindful of your own flash, right? Because like I normally say cooldowns, and like what I'm meaning by cooldowns is respecting. Okay, I'll just write this down, but like respecting and punishing cooldowns. So when they use cooldowns, you punish them. When you don't have cooldowns, you be respectful, right? And included in that is flash. But I think your flash cooldown needs to be like its own category almost of like, if you walk up and contest waves with no flash, that's like really scary, especially if you don't have vision on either side of mid, or if like you know they're in the area. I also think as well, like, don't just push for the sake of it, right? If you ever push a wave and the prior isn't used for anything, or you can't use a prior for something, it's probably better off just not to push. Because I remember there was like that time you died actually contesting the wave with no flash. There was no point pushing that wave anyway. Like it just didn't do anything for you regardless. So you just wanted to sit back and relax anyway. So yeah, I think that is everything. I will copy this to you again. I think, yeah, this one is really easy fixable though. Like, you know, if you don't die early, either because you rush Catalyst or you use Exhaust or you punish that cooldown, there's like 3 ways to avoid dying at level 6 there. And if that doesn't happen, instead of going 3 and 14, you know, you're just going to have way better game. Once you fall behind, it is really difficult to recover. So, yeah. Let me know if you have any questions or anything, and I'll be happy to answer them. And let me know if you understand like the spellbook stuff, because it is pretty confusing.